Well, thank you so much. It's great to be with you, and it's always a pleasure to welcome you to the Capitol. This is always an exciting day, and we're thrilled to have our business community come to the Capitol. We love working in conjunction with you. We were a little concerned about where you were. Scott said y'all were supposed to be here at 10:30, and I said, well, you must have some legislators driving the buses. They don't. It's not that hard. You get on the high street and you come up the hill. I'll tell you kind of a funny story. I guess first or second year as Speaker, we brought forward a charter school bill trying to give more opportunities for educational opportunities to our students. And my aunt from Missouri was here. That debate on that bill is the longest debate in the history of the Mississippi legislature. It went for about 11 hours. It started at 2 in the afternoon and went to about 1 o'clock in the morning. My aunt from Missouri, who was here, watched it for about 8 hours. She stayed about 10 o'clock and she couldn't take it anymore and she went home. So I didn't see her till the next morning. And I said, well, Aunt Peggy, tell me what you thought about the debate. And she said, if there was ever evidence of the need for education reform in Mississippi, it's the Mississippi legislature. She said, I couldn't believe some of the stupid arguments that I heard on the House floor. So she wasn't that impressed. I think I got about 8 minutes to talk about a lot of things. Let me touch on just a few things that Scott says are important to MEC this year. There were 3 things that he mentioned: transportation funding, workforce development, and then one thing I want to touch on is the income tax. We have here y'all's report from last year, stronger than ever. This is what you produced at your 2022 annual meeting last June. And within that, you talk about legislative accomplishments. And one of those was the personal income tax reduction right there at the bottom of the page. I want to thank you for your help in what we did last year. Many of you have heard me speak about the advantages of eliminating the personal income tax, how that helps Mississippians, how that puts more money into their pockets. When you give them more disposable income, they're going to have a better ability to provide for themselves, improve their quality of life, provide for their children, spend those dollars in the community. How many of you sell a good or a service? Everybody in here sells a good or service. If you got a job, you're selling a good or you're selling a service. So if we put more money in their pockets, they're going to buy more stuff. They're going to buy more of the stuff that you're selling. They have more to give to their church. There's just no downside to letting people have more disposable income. You helped us last year get that message across, and we changed our tax structure last year to go to a flat 4% tax rate. What we did last year has been touted all across the country. I had no idea how many people were watching Mississippi and our efforts to eliminate the income tax. That's still a goal of mine. Eliminate the income tax. Now, we may have to take steps along the way over the next few years to get there, but we're going to hopefully find a day, come to a day at some point, where the citizens of our state get to keep all of their hard-earned money. So I wanted to, first of all, point that out. Thank you for your help and efforts in getting us there, and I'm proud to see that you listed 4 accomplishments last year. One of them was the elimination of the reduction of the income tax. 2 other things that Scott's mentioned when we met a couple of weeks ago was transportation. I want to brag on a couple of guys. Trey Lamar is over here. Raise your hand, Trey. And Jason White standing over there. And then there was a guy named Mark Baker, who's no longer in the House. But in 2018, we passed a very transformative transportation bill. We took some of our use tax, dollars that we already have. This didn't raise a tax anywhere. We just took money that was already coming in and passed an Infrastructure and Modernization Act. And under this bill, we devote 1/3 of the use tax to transportation, to roads, bridges. At that time, it was about $120 million. I haven't checked to see what the number is lately, but at that time, it was $120 million. Every year, we took $20 million, we put it into the local bridge program, we took $50 million and gave it to the counties, and we took $50 million and gave it to the cities every year. And that has been happening every year since 2018. At that time, when we passed that bill, I think there were almost 700 bridges around this state that were closed or posted. It was in excess of 600, I know that, and I think it was approaching 700. Mike, do you remember how many? Is that about right? When I last checked, 4 years later, after the passage of the bill, we're down to 288. That's how many bridges have been repaired around this state. The plan is working. And these gentlemen that I just pointed to were the brains behind that. They were the ones who developed that plan, brought it up to the House of Representatives. We passed it, the Senate passed it, and that plan has begun to work over the last 4 years, and we're seeing improvements in our transportation and roads and bridges and infrastructure around the state. In addition to that, we've done a whole host of other things. We put a portion of the lottery money towards roads and bridges. Each year we designate and appropriate money towards roads and bridges, and all these things have worked together to make improvements. We're going to continue to do that this year. We're going to continue to push to make sure that our infrastructure is addressed. Second thing, or the last thing, is workforce development. And to make this point, let me tell you about a conversation I had last summer, well, 2 summers ago now. There was an individual here in Jackson from the Association of Equipment Manufacturers. This guy was out of Washington, D.C., and his job was to go around the country and select sites for companies. And as a matter of conversation, just as curiosity, I said, tell me what the number one thing is you look for. When you're going to a state, going to a city, and you're looking to recommend a site to this company, what's the number one thing you look for? He said, workforce. You gotta have a good, educated, reliable workforce, or you don't even get on the list. Number 2 was infrastructure. Well, I think that highlights the importance of both of those things. So last year, we passed House Bill 1388, which was the Comprehensive Career and Technical Education Reform Act. That sounds impressive, doesn't it? It was a workforce development bill, and what we did under this bill was to create and put into all middle schools and high schools around the state career coaches. And their job is to sit there and guide students, tell students about career technical job opportunities, steer them towards those professions, make them aware of the jobs that exist, because many of our students, about 60% of our workforce, I think, is in those type of professions, those types of jobs: welders, mechanics, electricians, plumbers, good careers where they can make great money. So we put under this bill career coaches in the high schools and middle schools. This year, we're going to put more money there. We want to make, this is probably the most exciting thing about this bill was the career coaches. We've heard more feedback from people about the excitement surrounding the career coaches. So we're going to hopefully this year put more money towards that, put a great emphasis on our workforce development. Under this bill, we have asked the Department of Education and the Community College Board to work together to create dual enrollment classes to align the classes that they offer so that they're addressing the industry needs. They're looking at the job markets around the state, which changes from region to region in many cases. Are we giving the type of education that addresses the job market in Laurel, Mississippi, in Greenwood, Mississippi, in DeSoto County? Let's make sure that the education we are providing aligns with the job market that exists. I want to commend Donnie Bell, who is my workforce chair, who was the lead on this. I want to commend Ryan Miller, who's at the Office of Workforce Development. The two of them worked together to put this bill together. We had some ideas. We didn't know if they were good or not. I called Ryan to my office and I said, here's the bill we want to draft. You take it, you tweak it, you fix it like you think it ought to be fixed so that we can accomplish what we're trying to do in the area of workforce development. He did that, we passed the bill, and we're hopeful that that bill will transform the landscape of workforce development. Pretty much out of time. Those are kind of the 3 things that I think Scott tells me are important to you: transportation, workforce, and I just want to say thank you for the income tax. Let me close with this. Many of you may have heard this before, but if you have, you'll just have to endure it again. I spoke in here one time to a group of 3rd graders, and you know, your speech doesn't always connect. When you come in here and I try to communicate with you, sometimes I don't always succeed. A group of third graders came here one time, and their teacher wanted me to speak to them. I said, what do you want me to tell them about? She said, I want you to tell them how a bill becomes a law. I was like, my gosh, are you sure? And she said, oh yeah, they need to know this. And I said, they're in the third grade. And she said, oh, but this is the gifted class. These are the smart ones. They can get it. I said, okay, so you are clearly politically minded. You're here today because you are concerned about the legislative process, right? So you need to understand this too. A bill starts when a legislator comes in with an idea and they go to see the attorneys. The attorneys draft the bill and they send it to the Speaker's office. The Speaker then refers the bill to the committee, and the committee chairman refers it to the subcommittee chairman. The subcommittee chairman deals with the bill. If they like it, they pass it out to the full committee. If the full committee likes it, it comes to the full House floor. If the House passes the bill, then it goes to the Lieutenant Governor's office, where he then assigns the bill to the chairman of the committee. The chairman of the committee assigns it to the subcommittee. If the subcommittee passes it, it comes out to the full committee. If the full committee likes it, it goes to the full Senate. If they pass it, then it goes to the governor for signing. But if they change the bill in any way, it comes back over to the House for concurrence or non-concurrence. If we agree with the changes, then we send the bill to the governor. But if we don't agree with the changes, then we send the bill to conference. In conference, the lieutenant governor puts up 3 senators, the speaker puts up 3 House members. Those 6 individuals sit in a room and hammer out the differences. If they come to an agreement, they produce what's called a conference report. Conference report is returned to both chambers for consideration. If both chambers pass a conference report, then it goes to the governor for signing. But at any time, the governor can veto the bill. If he vetoes the bill, then it comes back to the House of Origination for override. If one chamber overrides by a 2/3 vote, then it goes to the other chamber, and if they override by a 2/3 vote, then the bill becomes law. Any questions? Third grader sitting on the front row raised his hand. I said, yes, sir. He said, you like pizza? I said, yes, I do, and you're qualified to be a legislator. So, thank you.